Rick Set 808 Productions
presents The Beat Factory. Welcome to The Beat Factory. Take a seat, have a sat. We're gonna talk about some music. Today we're gonna talk about the new Nicki Minaj album entitled Queen. If you don't know, I don't know how you wouldn't know. Nicki Minaj is a Trinidadian American rapper and first came out on the scene 2007. She had a series of mixtapes and then got signed until 2009 by Young Money. And so she's been the number one female rap artist up until now, and now she releases her fourth studio album. And I'm not somebody who has been actively pursuing Nicki Minaj's music. I'm not the guy who says, I can't wait for that next album to come out. But the reason I chose this album is because I wanted to know, or I've been asking myself this a lot lately, is what is the throne? You hear about rappers saying that they own the throne, they're the ones on top, and I've had a really hard time finding somebody else's opinion on what the throne is exactly. Like, how do you get it? And then once you get it, how do you keep it? Like, are there standards? Do you get the throne by being the best? Do you get it by being the most popular? Because I don't think those two are necessarily always together. And Nicki Minaj is definitely, at this time in her career, she's experiencing something that I would believe she hasn't had to deal with before, was that she actually has a competitor. Because Cardi B just dropped her album, Invasion of Privacy. So you would naturally have to kind of compare these two, is that you've got the one up-and-coming female rapper going against the one established one, and then now the established person releases their next album. Okay, cool, what are you going to do? You going to bring it? I'll probably do another podcast on exactly what I think the throne is, because I feel like you could take that into a huge discussion, basing it upon like who had it before, where did it come from, is there a clear moment that people can say, okay, at this time this person had the throne, at this time this guy was better but he didn't own it for these reasons, that kind of stuff. So, and then how does that get, are there thrones for, in different genres? Are there, okay, this is like the throne for, pop hip hop. This is the throne for, the gangster rappers or for, conscious rappers. So like, how do I now divide it up? Do I divide it up by time? During the 80s, during the 90s. Moving past that, let's just go to say that at least Nicki thought she owned the throne for female rappers. And I could tell you that she believes that, because this entire album is exactly that, of her saying, I'm the best, I have the throne, Cardi's not as good as me. Which is probably my number one criticism of this entire project, is that if you're the queen, the title of this album is Queen, if you're going to say that you own the throne of female rappers, you don't do that by referencing your competitor. You do it through action. You prove to them that you're the one on top. If I'm the king, of England, and some prince is saying that he has some better claim, some religious right to be the king, I'd say come at me, prove it. Where's your army? What are you gonna do? You gonna break down my walls? You gonna storm the castle tower? What are you doing? Or are you just mouthing off? You're just somebody out in the wilderness. If I was a king and there's some prince telling me that he's gonna be better than me, I'm not gonna talk about him. I'm not gonna give anybody like, maybe we should go see what that guy's talking about. How about you just prove it? How about you just go and squash it? You just go and be like, look, there is a reason I'm king. And the problems start with the first track. Like, okay, I'm sitting down, I'm gonna listen to Nicki Minaj's response to her first competitor in years. And you give me track number 1, Ganja Dreams, And what are you doing? You trying to Rihanna? Like, are you trying to pull back from your Trinidadian roots when Rihanna's already kind of cornered that market and you got Drake kind of biting on that same thing too? What makes you think you can do it? And you don't do it effectively. The answer would have been, oh, I think I can do it because I just gave you a great track. Well, you didn't do that because this beat is entirely boring and it's way too long. There's no change. There's no thematic change throughout the whole thing. And it's like a 5-minute song. Nearly all these tracks are 5 minutes. She could have ended it at minute 3.5, and then maybe the song would have been acceptable and she could have moved on. But then she gives us a whole, where the beat dies down and you bring it back up again. And the hook, the chorus is, every time I get high, I think about you. And then in context of this whole thing, are you saying that every time you get high, you're thinking about how Cardi B's coming for you? I mean, that's the only thing I can get from it. Because if this is a love song, then I'm not getting it. Because all you seem to be referencing is how you're the queen, how you're so good, but then, oh, I'm really worried about this other person. That's not what a queen does. So disregarding that the track goes way too long on this boring beat that has no change in it whatsoever. When you go on to the next track, Majesty, that features Labyrinth and Eminem, you're like, okay, cool. You got some big names on here. What are we going to do with this? And you give me some kind of piano thing with Labyrinth singing on it, and it sounds kind of interesting. Okay, here we go. And you just drop the beat with some harsh sawtune bass line, and you give me some crappy recycled flow that I've already heard before. You know, it's weird because it could have been kind of like a really hard track, but then she does this, like, I don't want to sound like I'm too harsh, but it's already off the back. I'm already sick of it. Already off the back, I'm like, you're doing nothing interesting. And then you get Eminem on here, and you're like, okay, cool, big name, what you gonna do? And yeah, he can spit fast on this track, but there's like nothing of value. It's like, yes, you've got talent, but like maybe put some words behind it now, especially because you're Eminem. Like, you're the feature. Like, you're supposed to be, on top of the throne. You're supposed to be one of the biggest names. And you give me something that sounds like you telephoned it in. And then you do it again, like at minute 4, the song probably could have been over, and then you kind of do a change beat, and it doesn't make any sense contextually for the track. I don't know why it would be moved on in relation to the next track. Like, maybe it could have been a connector. It wasn't effective. Nearly every track on this album probably should have ended a minute before it ends. Now, the third track, I actually like that one, but not because of Nicki. It's actually a Biggie beat. If you go dig any further, you'll see that Ringo's the producer, and Ringo's actually one of the guys who worked with Eric B. and Rakim. And so that's why this track to me sounds like a Microphone Fiend. So she puts on, it's basically like a diss track, but like it's definitely in the theme of the late 80s, which I always enjoyed. But we all know that you ain't got any diss with none of these people. You're just putting it on. That's fine. But I'm not interested to hear you just make stuff up and call Drake a girl because he cries like you don't know if you're actually sexually aroused or if Drake's crying. Like, it's okay, cute. And I hate the hook where it's like, I'm just playing, but I'm just saying. It's like, okay, and just repeats it over and over again. And once again, it's way too long. Like, it didn't need to be this long. If you want a track to be long, it has to be good. Like, you gotta be killing. You gotta make me want it to not to end. And the next track, entitled "Rich Sex," it basically to me sounds like it's a Migos track. I really do like heavy bass tracks. Very little instrumentation in the treble section, and then you go real heavy. Give me something that's gonna blow up my speakers on the bass side, and I could bump to that all day. But then when you're biting Migos' flow the entire time, it's distractionary. Even Lil Wayne, he's the feature on this, but Lil Wayne is biting on Kendrick's flow and on Migos. Both of you guys are big names, if you're gonna copy someone else's flow, you have to do it in a way that either you're saying you do it better than them, or you're doing it satirically. Otherwise, it comes across as you're just biting. And that goes back around to this thing where Queen, the album's titled Queen, Nicki's the queen. Then why are you biting on everybody? If you're so good, why do you have to reference everybody else? The next track is entitled Hard White. I like the beat. It's actually really good, but it's a Rihanna track. And so I don't know why you're on it. It's a beat that you would want to hear Rihanna do. And then when you do your singing song part on the hooks, you're basically copying Rihanna. So once again, and the verses, you're telling everybody that you're the best, that you're what everybody wants to be. You're basically describing yourself as the GOAT. Then why are you doing someone else's style? You start every track on this album with the exact same flow. And maybe I shouldn't be surprised, because every time I heard of you, I wouldn't describe you as necessarily versatile. You got chopped chicken sing when they put you on the appropriate track. And they put you on the track when they want to make you sound like bigger than life and powerful. And instead, all I'm hearing is that, it's exactly a Rihanna song. They should have saved this beat and sold it to her rather than you. On this track, this is the one where she says, I ain't never have to strip to work the pole. So once again, you're referencing somebody that's threatening your claim to the throne. We're 5 songs in, and the entire theme has been how you're the best. And all you've done is bit other people's flow. Your track choices are clear references to other people in the game currently. And now you're basically naming the person by name who you think is your biggest competitor. And once again, the track is way too long. I'm just not seeing the creative direction you're going for. I keep going back to the point that if you're the one on top, then prove it and stop doing everybody else's crap. The next track is entitled Bed. It's got Ariana Grande on it. I think she has a beautiful voice. This is actually the perfect track that you would want to have her featured on. But then Nicki doesn't bring anything. And then she's biting again on the Migos thing. This is definitely the radio edit, I would say, of the album. This one is what I think the producers assumed would have got a lot of radio play. It's basically a dance track. It can be extremely useful for people who are going to do remixes. But I'm more focused on, I feel like, and I don't think it's an unfair focus for this album entitled Queen by Nicki Minaj, who has been telling me the entire time that she's the best. And then now I get another track where she's talking about how she's the best. And if you were the best, you wouldn't tell everybody you're the best. You don't talk about it. You're like, oh, hey, guess what? I'm really good at soccer. Are you? Because if you were, you'd just show me, and you wouldn't just keep mouthing off. And on this one, she's taking all the SoundCloud mumble rap flow, and she's trying to do it herself. And once again, it's another thing. Like, you're just taking other things that are popular right now, and you're putting it on your album, which you're telling me that you're better than everybody else. Then why do you keep doing everybody else's stuff? I really like the track, the beat, the backbeat, the instrumental. I really like that on Thought I Knew Ya. I really like tracks that kind of leave a lot of space in between, so in this one, there's some flutes interjecting every now and then on the top, and then you've got the really heavy bass line on the bottom. And if you leave that gap in the middle, that's where the rapper can sit, and then that's where you can play. Because there's not a lot of stuff going on rhythmically on the top or the bottom, you can now be the instrument in the middle. Nicki doesn't do that. The Weeknd's featured on this. And so basically, this is a Weeknd track. Like, it's a beat that you would put The Weeknd on, right? But then Nicki sings on it, but in a way that sounds like you're trying to do what The Weeknd does. It's kind of like, hey, let him do what he's good at, then you can now do what you're supposed to do. There's enough space in this instrumental that you both could survive doing completely different things. But then you made Like how can you have a track on your album where it sounds like you're the feature? You know, and at this point, listening through it, it just sounds like a mixtape with like no overarching idea, because you've got basically a kaleidoscope of what song we're on. We're number 8 now, so that means we've had at least 7 different tracks of all different genres or subgenres, of all different flows that you're taking from 7 different people that are popular currently. It doesn't sound like a Nicki album. It sounds like Nicki's trying to do a little bit of everything. The next track, Run Hide, I wasn't really that impressed with. And I remember thinking at this time, I was like looking at it and I said, Jesus Christ, there's 20 tracks on this album? There's 20 tracks. I'm tired. I'm done. And we're only 8 in. I'm not even halfway there. It's because all of them are like 5 minutes long. Like, would you cut them? If you just did 20 tracks of, 3-minute songs, you might get away with it. Like Kanye just dropped his album and it was like 8 songs. Perfect. It was good. People were satisfied at the end of it. You don't gotta keep giving me stuff because you don't know if I would like the last one. So, you didn't like that? Okay, maybe you like this. Maybe like this. Here, just eat a buffet rather than just having like a really good piece of food. Track 9, Chun Sui. I like that one a lot. And I found out that it's because Metro Boomin was the producer, aka Young Metro. I think like in 2016, he basically changed it from Young Metro to Metro Boomin. He works with Future, Migos, Big Sean. He did the beat for Drake's Jumpman. He did Bad and Bougie with Migos. I didn't know he did Congratulations with Post Malone. He did Bounce Back. I think that sounds great by Big Sean. And then Mask Off, we all were singing that by Future. So the beginning of it, I really like the environment that's being made where that Sway Lee can actually set up and get ready for the main event. Metro Boomin is really good at producing tracks that, once I said again, really heavy bass lines, a lot of space in the middle, very little on top, which gives a lot of space for the artist to fill in the gaps rhythmically. I love Sway Lee's voice. It's unique, and I think when you apply it to a Metro Boomin beat, that it just kind of creates this like ethereal, like atmospheric vibe going on, and then you have this something that's holding it together, which is that really heavy bass line. And then Nicki just ruins it when she comes in, because it sounds like she's trying to do like a comical flow, and it's just like I wasn't ready for a joke. I mean, especially we're 9 in and I've been waiting for something to happen, and you give me a joke. You give me a joke flow. Like the flow even sounds like it sounds more like Iggy Azalea. It's like, why am I able to reference people that you sound like in every single track? Especially if you're saying you're the queen, if you're saying you're the best, and stop biting everybody else's flow. What are you doing? And then there's like a fast part, like, so you see like raps really fast. But even that, maybe just because I'm pissed off at this point, where it's like, now you're just copying other stuff. It's like, you have these great beats, you've hired these big names, and then you're just not putting forth your best. Is maybe like, if I can reference it back to where maybe I'm not trying to be so hard on her, where it's like, look, clearly your production team is good. All these tracks could be radio edits. You got The Weeknd, you got Eminem on here, you got Ariana Grande, you got Sway Lee, and I'm just still not impressed. It's like, how much money are you spending on this to prove to people that you're better than Cardi B? And I don't agree with you yet. Chun Sui is track 9. I still haven't agreed with you. Halfway through the album, Chun-Li. This is a Nicki beat. This is the beat she's supposed to be on. The backbeat is a throwback. It sounds just, not just like, but very similar to the Barbie Dreams. I keep going back to that, the sparseness of these tracks. The 808 bass is mirroring the drum track. This is what she's good at. This is probably the best song on the album, if I had to say it, was Chun-Li. Maybe this is what I, as a listener, me specifically, want her to be on, these kind of beats, because her voice timbre fits perfectly in here. And then when you tell me that you're the best, and you haven't, in this one, you haven't referenced anybody else, but just saying that you're saying you've been the one in charge. You're right. You're right. You've been the one running this. You're right. And on this track, I think you're proving it. I don't know why it took you 10 tracks to do it. You probably should have pushed this one a little further back. And actually, it would have made more sense rather than having two ninja kung fu themed. You got Chun Sui and Chun Li back to back. If you actually separated it, it might have given you thematic theme throughout your album, rather than make me feel like, oh, we're gonna do the Kung Fu Kenny thing. Like, oh, okay, another example of even when you do what you're supposed to do, something that this is the best track on the album, I'm still thinking about somebody else. Like, don't make me think about somebody else on your album. What are you doing? I mean, I think you can hear that I'm frustrated with that. With that, this is once again my major criticism of this album is that you're saying you're the queen, and all I'm getting from you is references to other popular people. LLC, I like that too. This is also a Nicki beat. And when I say Nicki beat, I'm saying that there's a lot of space in the middle. You give me a really heavy bass line. You're giving me a very spaced out drum track, very light instrumental on the top, so that she has space to fill it up. She has a voice to do that. Then let her do it. Like 2 minutes in, they kind of changed up the beat. I feel like it wasn't effective. It got kind of weird and went back to it. But I do like the hook, the way it starts out. It's like, I made that bitch an LLC. It's just funny. Because, like, yeah, like, you've turned who you are into, like, a company. Like, I make so much money that I had to incorporate. I just think that just tickles me. I really liked the next track, Good Form, when I first heard it. And then I went and watched Dead in Hip Hop, their review of the Nicki album, and it was made evident to me that that beat is basically Back That Ass Up by Juvenile. But then that makes sense because you don't know why I also like it, is if you've listened to me enough, you can probably guess where I'm going with this, is that it's a, wait for it, it's a Mike Will Made It beat. So now we're track 12. I've enjoyed 4 of the tracks you provided me, and 2 of them are covers, essentially. And then on a cover, you go and you bite Sister Nancy. Jay-Z had a track where he did that on 444. It's like everybody's doing it. How about stop referencing other stuff? And then just kind of goes downhill from there. Nip Tuck, I feel like she stole that from Kendrick. That's a Kendrick album song. That's, yeah, another track about you being the best. Okay, we get it. Now we're 13 in. There's like an interlude. And it's literally called Too Late Interlude. It's unnecessary. I mean, in my opinion, interludes are only required, or they only work if you have an overarching concept of this album. Only thing gets said so far is that all the boys want you. You're the best. Tell me something that I'm supposed to. Tell me something else. Tell me something I don't know. I mean, I don't know you're the best at this point. After listening to this, track 15, Come See About Me. I was bored. I actually skipped that one. And then Sir. That's an entire song about Cardi B. And the beat, it just sounds like a generic Future beat, and Future is featured on it, and that makes sense because Metro Boomin is the one doing the production. So then now we've got another example where Nicki is sounding like a feature on her own album. You know, I'm just getting really frustrated that I'm saying the same thing about these tracks. So the next one, Miami, I like that music. I like that beat. It's a Murder Beats beat. You know, he's the one producing it. He produced Pop It Up by Migos. He produced It's a Vibe by 2 Chainz. This music should sound good. And then you put Nicki on it, and it doesn't sound good. Because she's trying to sound like Migos on a Murder Beats production. She's trying to sound like 2 Chainz on a Murder Beats production. Hey, Nicki, how about you try to sound like Nicki on a Murder Beats production? I feel like I'm coming real hard at her on this album, but it's because the only tracks I'm liking are by producers I like, and then these producers are not telling her to give me something different rather than just referencing other people they've worked with. Like, do you think Migos, exactly like Migos sounds different than 2 Chainz, but they both worked with Murder Beats? Why is it that when you work with Murder Beats, you sound like somebody else? And we're 17 songs in, if you tell me you're the best. I just can't see it, but I got my arms wide stretched here. I'm just confused. Especially when I was done with this album, track 8. I'm still listening at 17. Probably should have maybe done 12 tracks. Maybe that would have been an effective album for you. You could have cut out some of the ones that didn't hit well. The ones that would not be radio. Then you got Coco Chanel. It sounds exactly like the last track, the Miami Beat. And then you've got this feature of Foxy Brown. I've never heard of her before. I was more annoyed at the beat. 3 notes, 3 different gongs, cycle through for 4 minutes. Just kind of starts ended being a drone at that point, and I'm no longer listening to the feature. Then there's like an outro. It's called Inspiration's Outro. It was just basically stupid. And then you tack on another song with 6ix9ine. Why tack it on? Like, he is one of the biggest names in the SoundCloud era. Or, I mean, that doesn't mean that I would say he's good. I kind of think he's terrible. But he's got the popularity. Why stick it at the end? Especially track 20. You could have brought in so many other people. Well, maybe that's inaccurate. Like, to say that Nicki already doesn't have access to the 6ix9ine listeners, I think that would be that's not true. She's already so pop that I think if you listen to 6ix9ine, you probably already listened to Nicki. So then why even have 6ix9ine on your album if you're supposed to be the best? Are you trying to associate yourself with the SoundCloud people? And 6ix9ine has so many of his own problematic history. Why are you now endorsing him? Or do you think he's going to be the next up and comer? And if you think that, then why is he on the last track, especially after the woman that you featured? If you're trying to say that Foxy Brown is so good, you should put her up earlier in the album as well. I don't think I'll ever understand the last track. That's Fifi. Like, well, why even have him on there? So then, in conclusion, at this point, I mean, of me complaining forever about how this album is essentially 20 tracks of Nicki telling me she's the best by doing 20 different things by 20 different people, and then providing me with various songs where she has a feature that makes her sound like the feature. And where we all know the context of which this album was released, referring to it's going to be seen as a response to Cardi B, your only competitor. And then why did you attack her? Why didn't you make friends? You know, I've heard this from multiple people that if she had just made friends with Cardi and not made her a competitor, she wouldn't have come out and look like she's a loser at this point. Meaning on the throne. Like if she had just, there was enough space. There's only 2 of you. You didn't need to make it a competition and then you lost it. If you had made it where it wasn't a competition, then you wouldn't have ever had the opportunity to be perceived as having lost the throne. I think she's just been in this environment too long where she's the only one, where she hasn't had somebody that is gaining in such wide popularity as a female rapper. Because heck, Cardi B hosted the Late Show. Like, how much more popular can you get? And she's only going up. You've been around since 2009. Let's give you that. You know, after the mixtapes. So you're now roughly 10 years in. You finally have somebody who is competing with you on the scale of popularity and album sales, and then your decision is to turn her into a competitor when you had the opportunity to make her a colleague, when you could have had her on your album, you could have just squashed that entire competition in bud, and nobody would have lost any money, no one would have lost any ground, and then there would now have been 2 female artists who were taking up space on the Billboard Top 100 on equal footing. Instead, you had to step down on somebody coming up, and you did it poorly. And you did it where I think that maybe it's about time someone else moves on top. So, so what you think? If you agree, disagree, go ahead and reach out at us. Send we got all the things, man. We got the Gmail. Send us at regsec808@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, regsec808. We even got that Facebook page set up, Facebook at regsec808 Productions. Hit that subscribe button for the YouTube followers. Leave those comments and likes. You've been listening to Lukefahr in the Beat Factory.